much for coming out tonight. Tonight I'm going to be talking about 11 different ways that I make money in my business, or I've made money in my business. I still don't use all of these strategies currently. As we all know, real estate is cyclical, so what you do today might not work tomorrow. So you need to be able to adjust with what the market's doing. So these are 11 ways I've made money in real estate, and there's probably another 10, 20 that I could be doing. These are the ways that I've made money in real estate. So we'll get started. One of the most common thing that people think of about making money in real estate, because there's so many TV shows out there about it now, is flipping. So I flipped over 100 properties, and I think right now is actually not the best time to be flipping properties. I'm just going to give you guys the honest truth. People are paying way too much for really crappy properties right now. And so there's this hype and hysteria like there's never been. And I just found out Ty Lopez has a flipping course that I didn't even know about. So, I mean, there's so many gurus out there that everybody's trying to get into flipping right now, and there's just a lot of competition out there. So what's happening to our margins is they're really getting squeezed out. People are paying a lot for properties, and then when people go to buy a fully rehabbed house, people have a lot to choose from. And so now the purchase prices have gone up and the resale values have dropped. So in 2000, and we're 18 now, right? In 2016, I flipped 25 properties. Last year, we only did 13. And this year, we'll probably even do half of that. So I'm just giving you guys some insight that, flipping properties, sorry to be bearer of bad news, but right now it's not a great time to be flipping properties. I feel like we're on the edge of a bubble, but I'm going to share. But there's still real estate deals out there. I'm not telling you, I said we're still going to do probably 5, 6, 7 deals this year. It's just they're becoming less and less and less. Yeah. And you should only be doing a deal if you know it's going to be profitable. So this is a deal. I mean, when you see a property that looks like this is a deal. Because anybody with a house like this is probably not going to list it. You can see, things stacked almost to the ceiling. It's just disgusting. These are rat nests here. This lady was a championship cockatoo breeder, which are like the parrot-like birds. And at one point, I think she had several hundred birds in this house. Literally, in different rooms, there was drywall. You could see it was pecked. You'd open up drawers in different rooms of like the office, and there'd be bird eggs inside the drawers. So pretty disgusting. I found this property was actually a for sale by owner, and it's a good deal when there's a phone number to call it, and the phone number is disconnected because they can't pay their bill. So this means this is somebody that needs to sell. Good thing we caught them when they did. They were about to lose this property actually to back taxes. So I think they were 2-3 weeks away from literally losing all of their equity. I mean, all of it. So us coming in, here you can see the drywall, what I'm talking about. And this was done by birds and mice. Right there you can see it, just absolutely disgusting. The city of Elk Grove Village condemned the house because of what was going on. The thing is, when they got all the birds out of the house, but the problem was they left all the bird seed, and so that attracted mice. And so it was just infested, just really infested. And when it get really cold outside, the mice would leave that house, because mice don't like being cold either. They would then go into the neighbors' houses and stuff. So everybody in the neighborhood hated this house. So the neighborhood was super cool about us rehabbing it. The city was great to work with because it was condemned, and they wanted this property. Elk Grove Village is a nice, great city to live in, and this was, just a complete eyesore for them. And you'd be outside of the house, literally from the street, and you could smell the odor. If it was a warm day, smell the odor coming from the house. I mean, that's how bad it was. We had close to 100 contractors. This was a house we wanted to test contractors out to get bids. We had probably a quarter of the contractors didn't even go inside the
I was gonna
house
say, I would walk in.
because of the condition of this house. And like I said, the stench. Like you'd be driving home and you'd be like, "What's that smell?" And you'd realize it was you because it would like soak into your clothes. I mean, it was just absolutely disgusting. And the funny part about this deal is, so hoarders, so this is a hoarding house, so hoarders like to hoard a lot of things, they also like to hoard money. So we were trying to save money, we weren't getting good bids on the property because the house is full of stuff, contractors were like, I can't get to electrical, I can't see the plumbing, I can't give you a good bid. So we tried to save money, we hired some guys, I literally believe it was like off of Craigslist. And was it Craigslist or Home Depot, I'm not sure how my project manager got the workers there. But all of a sudden, he's on the other side, he's in the office here, and they're in the, he's in the kitchen here, they're working in the office, all of a sudden it gets like quiet, like the trash throwing and all that is like stops. He's like, all right, what the heck's going on? And so he goes over to that room and they're like all huddled around this box. And then they see him and then they like do this like battle cry and they like push past, they leave all their tools behind, literally like money's flying out of this like bond. We don't know how much money they got away with, but we're thinking it was probably, $10,000 or more, I don't know, but it was a substantial amount. They left their tools, they didn't get paid for the day, got in their vehicle, drove off, we never saw them. I mean, he tried to chase them down, but it was already too late, called the police, nothing he could do. So we lost money, but we did pretty well on this deal. We bought it for 100. I think we put in somewhere around 90,000 into it. We sold it for 315 without a realtor. This was before I was even licensed. So it was a nice profit on this project. So you just working the numbers, no realtor commissions. It was a very, very profitable deal. I think we even we were actually going to fund this deal not through Barnett. It was another competitor of Barnett. And at the closing table, they told us there were these junk fees on the settlement statement. They're like, okay, what's this escrow account fee? They're like, oh yeah, that's just the fee. I said, all right, so where's the escrow account? And they're like, oh, there's not an escrow account, so why are we going to pay the fee? Well, so we literally closed on the house cash because like they had all these fees that they didn't disclose to us, and then we refinanced it out with the bank. But
what was the turnaround time from, like,
I think it was like 7 months because we had to work with the health department to get it on
from the time from acquisition?
acquisition to selling it. There you can see the lawnmower probably made the house smell better. But I mean, these aren't even that high resolution photos, but that's like a hand scraped acacia. We knocked this wall out. There you can see this is after they removed 50 bird cages. This is actually the house kind of cleaned up a little bit. So that's one great way to obviously make money in real estate is flipping. But you need to be very selective on what you're buying.
Do you source a lot of your properties through for sale by owner?
Very few. But again, this was most of the time for sale by owners are unrealistic on the price. So my guess is they were probably unrealistic on their price for a long time. And we caught them, their phone is disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
The house is condemned. They're literally going to get $0 if the tax buyer takes this property. So they were able to put somewhere in the realm of like 80 grand in their pocket. They would have gotten nothing. So, the chant you should always do is F you, which means follow up. Because if you're not following up with people, these deals imagine if I talked to this for sale by owner 6 months earlier and he wasn't motivated. They might have wanted $200,000 for that property. No one would have paid $200,000. But if I wouldn't have followed up, again, we caught him after the cell phone bill. But many of the deals I get are people I've been talking to. I mean, I've worked with people for over a year before I get the deal. Most real estate investors will talk to somebody once, twice maybe, and then that's it. So your money is made on the follow-up. So I want you guys to chant with me on 3, F you. All right, 1, 2, 3. F you, F you, F you, F you. All right, there we go. So that means follow up. It is very important if you guys want to get, not only if you're flipping houses, but if you're a realtor. Again, most realtors will call somebody once, twice, 3 times if you're lucky. You look at most sales statistics, most of the time the sales are made in the 8th, 9th, 10th time you follow up with somebody. So, and people appreciate that too. They might ignore you literally for 6 months, and then you call them up all of a sudden, they're like, hey Josh, how you been? I hadn't even talked, they were literally ignoring me, and now they're my best friend, now they're ready to sell their house or list their house with me. So money is always made in the follow-up. Wholesale. So wholesaling is essentially putting the property under contract and selling the contract. You're not selling a house. To sell a house and represent somebody, you need to have a real estate license. What you're doing with wholesaling, let's say Vince has a house that he wants to sell. I'll put Vince's house under contract for $90,000, and let's just say you want to buy this property. Let's say once Vince's house is fixed up, it's worth $200,000. So I'll sell my contract to you for $5,000. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now you can close on that property, and you can do the rehab, but I get the $5,000 and I'm out of it. You're buying the rights to the contract. You can only wholesale once you have the property under contract. And we talk about it actually on one of the episodes about filing an affidavit, a memorandum. Sometimes if you're blasting it out, like sometimes I've sent out my email blast to my buyers list, and then another wholesaler blasts it out to his list, and now I have no control over I've had people go around me. I think we talk about how I lost, I forget how much money it was, but I mean I lost like $20-some thousand because somebody went around me because I didn't file the affidavit and memorandum. So if you tie it up, it's good to put a cloud on title to say, hey, I have an interest in this property. Just a general rule of thumb, something to do, it's an extra step.
Yeah, have you ever had any due-on-sale events occur when you do the memorandum?
No, we haven't. That is a possibility, but usually when you're wholesaling a property, usually it's a short-term thing, like I'm gonna put a property, let's say I'm putting Vince's property under contract, I only have 30 days to close on it. And I'll only put a property under contract if I have full intention, if I can't wholesale it, that I can then buy it. You know, that's my own way I do business. You know, some people will put it up strictly if they can't find a buyer, then they back out. But you should be putting properties under contract where it's gonna be profitable for the person that's buying the property. So this is an example. This is a property in Downers Grove, cheap property, I don't even remember the details. But I put it under contract for $36,000. You know, I didn't put a huge absorbent wholesale fee of $10,000, $20,000, but that's a pretty good price where I left profit in there. It's in Downers Grove, which is a great area, so I think they were able to sell it for $90,000, something like that. We had too many projects going on at the time. I didn't really want to deal with the condo. So I just wholesaled the contract for almost $7,000 there. Anybody have questions about wholesaling?
Is there a limit of like 7 a year that you could do it before you're considered a dealer?
Yeah, that's a great question. As far as being a dealer, I'm not sure what the rule is on that. Do you know, Vince?
No, haven't heard of that being applicable, but I could be just in the.
No, I mean, I've heard the question. I think it's just how you classify it. I mean, most of the time when I put something under contract, I do very little wholesaling. Most of the time, if I put something under contract and it's a good deal, I'm gonna close on it because I can make a lot more money.
Oh, I've heard of guys that got in trouble because
They weren't claiming it on their.
And that was here in Illinois?
yes,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
There's some wholesalers that are doing
They're really considering you a realtor,
Correct, yeah.
you know, and if you're not licensed, you're breaking the law.
Yeah, if,
So they get.
some wholesalers, what they're doing is they're incorrectly marketing it. They're marketing the property and not the contract, so they just have to be real careful on the way you word.
Yeah.
You're not selling the house, you're selling the contract that you have an equitable interest in. So if I put, let's say I put Vince's property under contract, well, I'm giving him $1,000 to do that, or $2,000, whatever that number is. I now have equitable interest in that property because he's accepted it. So people where they get in trouble with it is where there's no earnest money given, they're marketing now you can market they're just not choosing their words correctly. And, so yeah, you can get a lot of hot water to do it, but there's lots of, go to YouTube for people here and learn how do you market it and not get yourself in trouble. Because I've seen a lot of wholesalers where I'm like, they're really acting like a realtor, not a wholesaler in this transaction, so you see a lot. So just be a little careful on that. Great point, thanks for bringing that up. Wholetailing is kind of like wholesaling, but you actually close on the property. Like right now is a great time to do wholetailing because a lot of times you can make more money by just buying a house and cleaning it up, maybe painting it, maybe doing carpet, than you would if you go in and do a full gut rehab. Because right now, people are paying a ton of money for crappy properties. So if you make it crappy but livable for somebody, then you can get a homeowner that will buy the property and pay a premium, and then instead of making on a wholesale fee $5,000 to $10,000, you can make $30,000, $40,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and that's how much you might make if you fully gut rehab it and do everything brand new. So just you have to look at every time you look at a deal, analyze it. How much would I make if I wholesale it? How much would I make if I wholetailed it? Again, paint, carpet, clean it out. And how much money would I make if I fully rehab it, put in the granite countertops, the brand new kitchen, and redo everything? So this is an example. This is a property, so who can see what's wrong with this house and why this is a good house to go after?
Landscaping?
Landscaping, oops, great point. So we've got sticks that are piled up there. This is all overgrown. It's hard to see the photo. Anybody else see anything?
The peeled paint.
The peeled paint,
There's trees growing in the gutter.
the trees growing in the garden, cha-ching. We've got, look at this driveway, really, really bad. So with this property, we didn't even do paint and carpet because this had messed up drywall and everything. We didn't even want to do that. We literally just cleaned it out. Which I'll show you the photos. This was the worst quarter house we've ever done. This is the hallway. Like even in the hallway, you're still on about a foot of garbage you're walking through. Now this might be the living room. In the living room, they had a bed that was laying on the garbage, and it was like you had to sleep almost standing up. That's how much garbage was in this house. But people can't list a house like that. So a great way to find property. So what we did is I left a note at the door saying, hey, me and my brother were driving through the neighborhood. We want to make an offer on your house, and we followed that up with mailers. And they didn't get our mail, but they did get the note on the door. The mailing address was, the forwarding address was incorrect. But I think we made like close to, I think it was between $30,000 and $40,000. Again, this is an older deal. Just simply by getting everything out of there. And instead of having to do the full rehab, go through the permitting process, just buy it, sell it to someone else, let them do the rehab. Another way that, I make money in my business is rentals. This is one of the big, focuses of my business now is building my rental portfolio. So I'll just go through, what I do is I focus on, and again, everybody has their own, if you talk to Bree Schmidt, she has a meetup group, I suggest you guys check it out. She has properties that she likes going after. I like going after single family homes. A good book you should read is called The Smart Section 8 Landlord.
What's it called?
The Smart Section 8 Landlord. It's written by a local guy in Lockport. His name is Al Rohde. And super sharp guy. He does thousands of houses for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac as doing the rehabs, coordinating that. But he wrote The Smart Section 8 Landlord, so I took his philosophy. I had bought several properties in the past. I didn't really have I was doing what I thought. I was like, oh, this is a good deal, but I didn't follow the formula. So within his book, he talks about focusing on properties with basements. The reason why is basements are just a place for people to store stuff. So when people move into a place, they're gonna have stuff and they need places to put that stuff. So just like I'm gonna be selling somebody's house, it's a great house, but they wanna sell it simply because they got nowhere to put their junk. And so having a place to store junk is a huge deal. So it's gonna be the same is gonna be true for tenants. Houses with garages, if it doesn't have a garage, you build a garage. Properties with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, if it doesn't have a second bathroom, figure out a way to convert the half bath into a full bath, or add a full bath. So if you have just 1 bathroom in today's lifestyle, your house is pretty much functionally obsolete. Most people with family, if you've got girls, they're gonna be, people need bathrooms. People like having, if you have a master bedroom, most people like having their own dedicated bathroom that they're not sharing with anybody else. Properties in, areas where the schools are good, safe neighborhoods, is it a neighborhood that, you're okay driving through it at night? And a property where you can resell. So, there's lots of areas in Chicago where you could buy a property for $10,000. You fully rehabbed it, put $80,000, put $100,000 into it, you'd only be able to sell it for $50,000. Okay, it's not a good area to buy rental properties. You want to be in an area that is not just rentals. You want to be in an area where there's other homeowners. So this is what I follow, and I use a property manager for most of my stuff, so I don't follow the 2-month security deposit rule anymore. And then Chicago has really got a lot of rules on security deposits. It's got to be an interest-bearing account. So if you're in Chicago, this is a tougher one to follow. But I'll give you an example. If somebody has enough money to put a 2-month security deposit down and first month's rent, they're pretty responsible with their money. I mean, they could probably even qualify to buy a house. There's FHA buyers out there that are putting less money down than 2-month security deposit and first month's rent. So these are pretty responsible people. So what we do when we have a property that we're marketing, again, this is following his philosophy on what I used to do before I had my project manager. I would set up a Google Voice number. I'd say, thanks for calling about the house on 123 Main Street. The rent is $1,500, for example. The security deposit is $3,000. So the total investment, or the total amount required to move into this property is $4,500. If you do not have $4,500, do not leave me a message. Very, very, very strict instruction. I'd still have people that call me, leave me messages, and they didn't have $4,500. But I'd set my rent a little bit below market, but now I'm getting a tenant that's going to be in there for a long time, a tenant that's responsible, a tenant that's probably going to take care of the property. Do my showings at 7 a.m. on Saturday. Who likes being up and going somewhere on Saturday at 7 a.m.? Probably not even most people here in this room. What you're doing by doing your showings at Saturday at 7 a.m. is you're weeding out any riffraff of people that aren't responsible enough to wake up early, get to the house, and meet you there at 7 a.m. I like getting to the property, I say my showings are at 7 AM. On Saturday, most people that have jobs most people don't have a job that starts at Saturday at 7 AM. Even if they have a Saturday morning job, usually they're not starting that job till 9 or 10 o'clock. So 7 AM is like a perfect, you only need to do one showing a week, which is that Saturday. I get there at like 6:50, 6:55 to get the house open. If there's a family and a car waiting for me or waiting in front of the house, that's probably my tenant. That tells you they're extremely responsible.
You make, more than one appointment?
So I do all my showings once, Saturday at 7, so I might have 4 families show up. I'll have a bunch of people that'll tell me they'll be there, I'll have like 10 people tell me they'll be there,
Right.
I'll maybe have 3.
Yeah.
And then I'll have people like, oh, I'm running late, I'll be there at 9 AM. I'm like, I don't even wanna deal with you, no.
Yeah.
I'm gone, I'm on the rest of my day. Then my Saturday is free to do whatever I wanna do the rest of the day. So that's an example of a property we use this exact strategy with. Bought this one for, I think it was like 40,500, somewhere around that range. We put about 11,000 into it. I mean, it already had a nice kitchen. That's not granite, it's like the tile, but it's nice. You know, we cleaned up the flooring, we painted it. You know, this was already done, this is in the master. Nice house, and like, 10, 12,000 into it. And then the rent we're getting on it is, which they're below market right now. I mean, I could probably rent this thing out for a lot more. But again, they're good tenants. My rent on it is $14.50, so not a bad return on investment there.
What town in Michigan is that in?
No, it's not in Michigan. It's in Chicago. It's on Michigan Avenue.
Oh,
Not on the Magnificent Mile, but
oh.
it's in South Michigan.
South Michigan.
Yeah, off of 75th in Michigan, which is a nice little pocket. I remember when we went into the house, the neighbors came over and wanted to see what was going on. The neighbors all looking out for each other.
Nosy neighbors, that's good.
Is that still South Shore?
All that, no, it's not South Shore. It's like Greater Grand Crossing, they call it. Chatham, yeah, right on the border. I like that area a lot.
Yeah.
Like it's an area I think is up and coming. Like there's a vegan restaurant like 1 mile away from there. Well, what I'm saying is like that's in that area. That's like you know, so that's kind of like a gentrification type area.
Yeah.
Another source of income is private money lending. So private money lending is I'm going to lend my money to Vince to do a real estate. He didn't work at Barnett as an example. I'd lend my money to Vince for him to do a deal. And what you do with sorry, I should show the slide. You're not recording, are you? You're gonna hate me. All right, here we go. So, where's this board from? Oh, all right, I'm not gonna say. So here's what the bank does with your money. They give you a CD, and this is an old photo, but so for a CD, they're willing to pay you a whopping 0.25%. Yeah, this is a really old slide. So they're then relending that same money back to you at 10 times the rate. So they're willing to pay you 0.25%, you know, in this example, and they're charging you 2.6% to that money right back to you. So the bank is leveraging. Yeah, so they're leveraging the loans your bank accounts are saving. And again, the federal government, whatever they have on deposits, usually they can leverage what, 10 times that?
Right.
So this is the moment you realize the bank uses your savings to invest in real estate. So how many people think that Albert Einstein's greatest discovery was E equals MC squared? No, it's actually, I probably should have had this before, it's compound interest. He says the eighth wonder. So what he came up with a rule of 72. So let's say let's say I'm getting 1% in a CD. How many people have 72 years to double their money? So I'm the only fool in the room, okay. Not many people, right? And I was just raising my hand to see if you guys would. No, that's ridiculous. If you take 72, you divide it by the interest rate you're getting. So if you're getting a 2% interest rate, it's gonna take you 36 years. If you're getting a 12% interest rate, it's gonna take you 6 years to double your money. So, this is something you wanna educate potential private money lenders. If you're a real estate investor, you don't have the money to lend at this point, that's fine. You should be educating people on the rule of 72. It's very easy to understand, it's a very powerful graph, it's a very powerful concept, and you really start awakening people's minds to what that is. So if I were to borrow, let's say I was to borrow money from Vince as a private money loan, or even Barnett, they're gonna want these same things. They're gonna want a promissory note, so this is my promise to pay Vince money. This is my promise to Vince, or my company's promise to Vince. Now, Vince is also going to get what's called a mortgage recorded. Now, the mortgage is making it public that I owe Vince money, and that property can't be sold until Vince is paid off. So, when I borrow money to do real estate deals, I'm not just, here you go, Josh, and I can run off and go to the Bahamas and disappear. There's a mortgage on that property, so if I didn't make my monthly payments, they have recourse to take that property back. And then there's a hazard insurance policy. If the house burns down, Vince is going to be listed, or Barnett is going to be listed on the policy to ensure that they're going to get their money back. So those are the big threes that private money lenders are going to need. So what you guys should be leveraging, there's many ways to leverage money. Retirement accounts. One thing I recommend, how many people are on LinkedIn in here? Right. So LinkedIn is a fantastic place because every time anybody gets a new job, moves jobs, LinkedIn blasts it out to everybody in their network that, hey, John Smith or Joe Smith just started a new job at XYZ company. Okay, when that happens, their retirement funds typically become available. And most people have been putting their money in whatever plan that their employer offered them, which with all the fees and stuff that most employers' plans have, it's absolutely ridiculous. The only reason why, like if you're at a job and you have a plan and they match, I'd say put your money in there if they're matching. If you put 3% of your money in there and they're matching 3%, put the full amount. But once the company's not matching, you start realizing, and you stop putting money in there, you start realizing, why is my money actually shrinking, or it's staying the same, or it's going up very little? Because you have these absorbent fees. So when somebody leaves a company, their money in their retirement account, they can now self-direct. Now, right, if you're not familiar with this, you want to have them self-direct their funds. So if you self-direct your retirement fund, they can invest to buy real estate. They can even buy companies. They can. There's hundreds of different things that they can invest in. Real estate loans. That's a great thing that you're going to want to talk to these people. So you see somebody on LinkedIn, they change a job. You should reach out to that person and not say, hey, lend your money to me. No, hey, I saw you just got a job at Abbott. Congratulations, that's great. I just want to talk to you a little bit about what I'm doing in real estate. You may already have a prior relationship with this person, but then start sharing with them what you're doing in real estate and get them excited. Most people, when you tell them you flip houses, people light up. We're like rock stars when you meet, the general public, because there's so many TV shows out there about flipping houses that when you tell people you flip houses, it's something they wanna learn about. So just meet with coffee, learn a little bit about them, introduce them to the whole idea of what you do as real estate investors. I always tell people what I do and how I do it. So for example, I might say, hi, my name is Josh. I'm just giving you like a quick elevator pitch. What I do is I fix and flip properties. Kind of like those TV shows that you see, flip this house and flipping Vegas. So kind of like that. And in order to do that, I pay private lenders like yourself 10%, or you might not want to say the percentage, but I pay a high percentage return. If it's a one-on-one conversation, you might throw in a percentage rate. But I pay investors a percentage rate in order to do that, and it's secured by a mortgage. And that enables me to buy these properties, flip them, and make a profit. And then when they're driving home after you meet with them and you got their card, they're like, that guy say he pays 10% or 8% or whatever you said there. You're kind of planting a seed in their brain. And what you're doing is then you want to sit down with coffee, meet with them, show them what you're doing, but you're telling people what you do and how you do it. So always think about that if you're looking for private money. This deal I'm talking about, I lent my money, so this was a deal I lent my money on. Here's the before and after. So I used my retirement account to do that. So for me to lend my money in my IRA, it's a lot easier. There's less restrictions for me to lend it to someone than it is for me to use that money on my own properties, because then you got to split it up with percentages and it becomes kind of difficult. So for me, I'd rather lend my money out of my IRA, and then that investor lends their money back to me. That's usually kind of a reciprocal relationship I have with people. Another source of income is joint venturing. I know at my main meeting we have on the first Tuesday, several people in that group have joint ventured on deals. Somebody finds the deal, somebody brings the money, somebody manages the rehab. And if you're brand new, you don't have experience with the construction, you don't have the ability to raise the money, if you can find deals, that's really the most crucial part of the whole shebang, is finding the deals. How many people think that raising money is the hardest thing to do in real estate? Okay. How many people think the construction is the hardest part? Okay, actually, there we go. Okay. And how many people think finding the deals is the hardest part? So
Finding the property deal.
yeah. So I would say finding deals and construction are the two hardest. Once you get into this, if you're just new, that sounds crazy to you because you're like, I can't get any money to do any deals. Once you start doing deals, you'll quickly find out with contractors you're gonna get taken advantage of at some point. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and it's probably gonna happen to you right at the beginning. Because you don't know what you're doing yet, and most contractors can smell a newbie from a mile away. But it's really, to me, it's finding deals and the construction aspect of it. So the ways I joint venture, if somebody brings a deal, I'll joint venture with them, but it's got to be a deal. You can say, hey, I've got this property and it's worth $200,000, but I can get it at $190. It's not a deal, right? You gotta bring a legitimate deal that I can make at least 10% return on my money, at least. That's a minimum. So a formula to use to kind of generate that. It's old school, but I'll teach it to you guys. It's called the Mayo formula. If you guys aren't familiar with it, Mayo, it's MAO, means maximum allowable offer. You take the after repair value, which is commonly referred to as your ARV, you multiply that by 70%, and then you subtract repairs. So I'll just give you an example.
What's it called, MAO?
MAO stands for maximum allowable offer. So I'll give you an example. If I could buy a property, let's say the property fully fixed up is $200,000. I'm going to take $200,000, which is my ARV, and multiply it by 70%. So that gives me $140,000. That property needs $40,000 in the repairs. The most I'm going to pay for that property is $100,000. This is a general. There's plenty of deal calculators. I think you guys even have one. There's lots of deal calculators. You can really start getting nitty and gritty with the numbers. But if you just want to say, hey, is this a good deal, and you just want to do a quick analysis, run this through. So if you bring me a deal, you say it's a deal, and if you don't have it under contract for $100,000 and the resale is $200,000 and it needs $40,000 in repairs, it's not a deal. Maybe if it's at 110, you know, you have it under contract for 110, I might look at it. But that's a general rule, is like, run that formula, and that'll get you in the ballpark, and then you can use a deal analyzer to really tighten your numbers up. So how I split up JVs, so whoever brings the deal is gonna get 33, and again, you guys can do your own way, there's no wrong or right way to do this, but this is the way I mostly structure my deals. So if somebody brings the deal to the table, usually they're gonna get 33% of the pie when it's done. If somebody brings the financing, so if they bring the cash to the table, they're gonna get 33% of the deal, and then whoever manages the construction is gonna get 34% of the deal. So, this was a deal where, the investor found the deal, and they also brought half the money to the deal. So we split it down the middle, we managed the construction, and then I used the bank for the half of the financing. So we split it 50-50. They brought, I think, $70,000 cash, I brought $70,000 in financing, we managed the construction, we did the deal together. This is the deal, this was in Bartlett, some before and afters, nothing too spectacular, but yeah, that's that. So you can structure a joint venture in many ways. I've joint ventured with contractors where I bring the deal, I bring the financing, or we do the financing. The joint venture will put, or the contractor will put in sweat equity, so they'll do the job at cost. Give you an example of why that's beneficial. I have one contractor that does great work. He's trying to keep his costs as low as possible. So for example, he was doing a job in like Highland Park, and they had all these great things that they literally, the homeowner, you know, every 4 years they're updating their house. They have these $300 toilets that they're throwing away because they're not new anymore. And so he's taking that $300 toilet that's used, which is still in fantastic condition, and he's taking it to my project so we can maximize our return on investment. So you gotta, you know, if you're gonna joint venture with a contractor in that aspect, there's gotta be a lot of trust with them. If you've never worked with that contractor, this is a little.
I don't know whether getting the numbers outside of trust.
Yeah, I mean, it's where it comes down to trust. Like this contractor.
Business, you trust nobody.
That's true, but if you know, there's certain people I would do that deal with, and certain people I wouldn't do that deal with. You know, because you're right. But I've known this person for several years.
Excuse.
But and his costs, like I've done this arrangement with other contractors, and he's like always way low. So like I know this guy's being like super honest with his numbers. But yeah, and then the way you find out is, hey, if this job is like the previous job, and then the cost. You kind of say, hey, this house is like this house. Why was this house that much more expensive than that house? I mean, you start learning what things cost, and it's just through experience that you get that knowledge. So construction. This is a source of income that we do. We're starting to do, we're doing a lot of work for investors. We're starting to do homeowners. But to do construction, you're going to more than likely need to get your GC license unless you're just acting as a project manager for a general contractor. Really the expensive part of becoming a GC is the insurance. Great thing about Chicago is you pay the money for your insurance and hey, I'm a contractor. There's no test, it's really simple. To say you're a GC, it sounds simple, but there's a lot of moving parts. If you're brand new in this business and you've never ran a job, or you know you're just starting out, this is not for you unless you go to school for it, or you start immersing yourself in your rehabs and you start learning what things are. But if you're brand new, definitely don't recommend going this route. Really the thing you want to do in construction is build a list of subs. So one thing we did in the city to kind of build up some of our subs is we would visit active job sites, and I'll give you an example. There was a developer that was building, they were building like 12 houses in this little pocket, and they were all in the same area. Do you think somebody that's building 12 houses in the city of Chicago probably knows what they're doing? The answer is probably yes, for them to even get the land to do 12 properties is a miracle in and of itself.
Yeah, you gotta prove yourself. You-
So if you're doing that kind of, and this was in a nice area, this was in Old Irving Park, so it's like to even get the land to be able to do 12, like they had to know people. So, like, I went and visited these job sites, the great thing is each house is like 1 week behind the next, so I go in this house, I get my drywall, or I go in this house, I get my framer, I go in this house, I get my electrician, I go in this house, I get my plumber. These are all great subs. That developer would not have hired those subs if they're really bad. Cause obviously, again, if they're building 12 houses, they know what they're doing, and looking at the job sites, are all well maintained. You know, it's a little, I won't say risky, it's a great area, but it's a good subs. Referrals is a great source, so, if there's a contractor, I know a lot of contractors in this business, I share my roofer with them, they share their guy that does concrete with me, I share my siding guy, so, we're sharing guys, and that's a common way that we build up our subs, and supply houses, so, let's say you go to a plumbing supply house, some of these plumbing supply houses will open at like 5, 6 a.m., okay? The contractors that are there right when the supply house opens are your best contractors. Because they're the guys that are there to get the job done, they're there early. And then asking the supply houses, hey, who pays their bills on time? These are all great recommendations, they're important things. Because these are all important things, and then I would rate this last thumbtack, Angie's List, these are gonna be more your people that usually do things for homeowners and that sort of thing. But these three right here are all great sources. The Pro Desk at Home Depot, a lot of times they can give you great referrals. We've got a great contractor in the back there. But you probably mostly work with homeowners, and that's kind of what we're going with too, because investors have to make a profit, right? So if the investor has to make a profit, you're not making, like if I'm doing a job for a homeowner, I can mark my job up 50, 60, 70%. You can't do that for an investor because there's no meat on the bone when you do that.
Right.
But you bring up the point that you work with investors where you might joint venture with them kind of in a fashion that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so you're not getting paid the same way that way, but you're getting money in another way.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind, but again, if you guys have experience, I think construction is a great way. This is just an example of a new construction house we built. And if my brother heads this up, I don't even know where this house is at, but nice house. Multiple streams of income, another one is commissions. So how many, we've got one licensed agent, any other agents in here? Just one, or two, I guess. Commissions. And then you used to be an agent, you don't have your license anymore, correct?
No.
Give that up. So if you're not licensed now, it's definitely something to consider. So how many, I know you guys are active, how many times have you had a seller reject your offer?
Depends, I'm kind of aggressive, so a lot of people.
A lot, right? Okay. If you would have told me, oh, they accept all of my offers, I'd say, don't listen to him because he's paying way too much for your property.
Yeah, no.
So, if you're making offers on properties, you should have less than a 10% acceptance rate on your offers. You're offering way too much money. If you tell me, hey, I made offers on 3 properties, I got 2 of them, I'm walking the other way because you paid way too much for those properties, more than likely. So, if you're making offers on properties, more than likely people are going to turn down your offer. Well, in the past, I've left thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table because I had a box that I had to buy these properties, I had to buy them at this price, but they weren't really in positions for me to buy it as an investor. They had the house with the white picket fence. The house didn't, it might have needed a little bit of updating, but not a lot. So, when I realized how much money I left on the table, we kind of saw the market shifting a little bit 3 years ago. I got my real estate license because I'm tired of leaving money on the table. I've got all these leads. Leads are not my problem. I get leads all the time. My problem is I want to monetize. You can't monetize every single lead that comes in, but how can I monetize as many leads as possible? So that's why getting your real estate license is great. And to tell you the truth, once I started listing properties, I'm like, man, this is easy compared to flipping properties. Because flipping properties, there is a lot that can go wrong when you flip a property. Anything that could go wrong has gone wrong. I've had where the city village inspector told this was before we had our GC license, they told the GC's plumber to fill in a catch basin with cement. And so the plumber, who was supposedly good, fills in this catch basin with cement, and because the inspector told them to do that, and then we had the flood, there was a big rain, and then the water didn't have anywhere to go, so it pushes up the house, and it was a 80-year-old house that never had a foundation issue. Now we have a foundation issue because the water had no place to go. So a lot of things can go wrong. I've had fires next to my property, and do I want to go through insurance? I'll just pay for the money, get it fixed, rather than having all my insurance on all my properties. Now if it was a huge catastrophic event, I'd have to go through insurance. Most insurance companies will figure out how long they can drag it out to pay you, so that way you're kind of in a tough position. So, you think, oh, my house burns down, I'm gonna get my money, or my house collapses, I'm gonna get my money tomorrow. No, insurance companies love to take your money, they love to smile at you when they take your check, but when it comes to get money back, it's a process. You ever have something that's major, I recommend you actually having somebody represent you that works with fighting insurance companies to help you get money in the claim. Vince, you guys do so many loans. What's some of the craziest things you guys have seen with insurance claims?
We had a homeless person light a fire on a back deck and burn down a big multifamily building of ours. The insurance paid out quite nicely on that one, actually.
But how long did it take?
6 months,
6
something
months,
like that.
If you're an investor and you're paying lots of juice on a property, that could destroy you. So, I'm not here to scare you guys, but if you've never done a real estate deal, it's great to kind of partner with people, kind of know what they're doing, learn the ropes that way, bring the deal to the table. That's one of the hardest parts of this thing. If you can learn how to find deals, oh man, I'll be your best friend. So this is an example. This guy, oh my gosh, he met with, I forget what he told me, he met with like 30 investors, okay? So when you meet with 30 investors, what does that tell you about a seller?
Hard-headed.
Hard-headed?
Well, he's bidding up,
He's trying to bid, he's trying to work out, it tells me he's greedy.
He's gonna let it off.
Yeah, he's trying to get, so the guy was an REO manager in Arizona, he did a bunch of REO properties. I meet with the guy, I don't even give the guy a listing presentation, I just sit down with the guy frankly, and I have a conversation with him. I'm like, what are you doing meeting with all these real estate investors? Because when I'm competing against 30 other investors, and he's telling me what some of their offers are at, I've got no chance at buying this property. My offer is like $50,000 less than what his best offer is right now, okay? So I'm like, all right, let me take off my investor hat, and let me put on my realtor hat, and let me start bad-mouthing investors. So I'm like, what are you doing meeting with all these investors? You're an REO broker. You should know better. These investors are trying to screw you and pay you as little as money possible. You should list the property. You get this. And sure, yeah, and the numbers, this house, yeah, it was outdated and it needed a little bit of work, but this is a house somebody can move into. So, even with listing it, he was able to net, an extra $30,000 that he wouldn't have even with the highest offer. Again, because I'm not buying a property unless it's a deal. My numbers are my numbers. If I know I'm not even in the ballpark, take off my investor cap, put on my realtor cap, And hey, let me tell you what's going on with these other guys over here. So, I mean, it's just the way to do it. You know, it's on this property, you know, over $9,000 in commissions. That's better than a lot of wholesale deals. So this is gonna be geared towards more realtors. How many people are familiar with Keller Williams? Keller Williams is, right now, they're the largest real estate brokerage. They just became #1 this year. Yeah, I think in agent count, volume, every brokerage is like, oh, we're #1 in something, but I believe they legitimately became #1. The reason they became #1 was this right here. It's called profit share. So why Keller Williams has grown tremendously. They have great training. That's another reason why. If you're a brand new agent, I think Keller Williams is a great brokerage to learn the business. They have phenomenal training. Keller Williams is really a training company that happens to sell real estate. That's how but great for people that are brand new and then want to learn the real estate brokerage side. But they created this, and I don't know if they were the first, but they were one of the first to implement. It's called profit share. So let's say I'm a realtor, I'm at Keller Williams, and Vince, you're a real estate agent. Let's say you're at XYZ Real Estate now, and I want you to join Keller Williams. Well, if I get Vince to join Keller Williams, every year, if my office is profitable, I get a little tiny piece of what Vince did for that year. And so Keller Williams' best marketing tool is their real estate agents. Okay? Because those real estate agents are wanting to bring more real estate agents on because then they get a piece of the profit. The greatest thing about Keller Williams is also their greatest weakness. They have such great training that each office has like a training budget just exponential. I'll give you an example. I know ex-managing broker of an office. She ran an office and she, I think she recruited somewhere around 40, 50 agents. But the overhead on the office was just astronomical. So she recruited like 40, 50 agents. At the end of the year, her office was not profitable, so she didn't have profit to share from any of those agents she brought on. And that's because they sent everybody on all these trainings all over she said every year they'd fly me to 4 or 5 different places to do these trainings. Keller Williams would pay for it. Again, it's great if you want to go in for the training, but for the profit share, there's just not a lot of profit left because they have such high overhead. I think I already talked about all that. Anybody have questions on that? So there's another model like that is Exit Realty. They have a similar model. If you're familiar with them, you bring somebody on, you can make money that way. And then where I'm at now, so the brokerage I'm with now offers profit share, so that is a way that I make money. What's great about the brokerage I'm with now has eliminated the brick and mortar. So one of the biggest expenses, like for example, that rent on her office that she was paying at that Keller Williams office was somewhere in the realms of like $6,000 a month. So that's a big overhead expense plus all the employees that each office, whether you're a Remax, Keller Williams, Century 21, Coldwell Banker, they have a front desk person, they have somebody that does the paperwork. So they have all these staff members. So running a real estate office, a lot of real estate offices, how many do you think are actually profitable that are out there? Do you have any idea?
Probably 5%.
5%? It's because you have so much overhead. And so the brokerage I'm with now is cloud-based. Everyone wants cloud-based, right? So what's cool about cloud-based though is they've eliminated the overhead. Instead of having employees at this location, employees at this location, employees at this location, employees at this location, everybody's essentially working from home. And so now the overhead has been eliminated. We have one central area. We have somebody that does the paperwork, that knows the Illinois. But these are people working remotely. The overhead has been eliminated, so now the company can be profitable. Instead of the money going to the brokerage, now that money can go. Instead of our company having to be profitable, it goes to the person that brought me on, and the person that brought them on, so I'll show you what that means. So it's kind of a multi-level marketing, yeah. What's cool about it, I swore I'd never be in a multi-level marketing company. I swore, because I was in
Isn't
two
that
of them.
isn't that how Keller Williams?
Well, they're
I
through
mean,
the,
back in the eighties?
no, so that's what Keller Williams is, they don't say they are.
Didn't they start that, didn't they kinda like start?
They kind of revolutionized it, yeah. But Amway was like one of the big, big starters. But the thing about real estate agents is real estate agents are going to sell real estate no matter what. So instead of me getting a sign-on bonus for, let's say Vince is a real estate agent and he comes on, if he never sells one house, I'll never make a dime from Vince. Vince actually he has to sell real estate. So these are the different, so like let's say I bring on Vince, the company gets $16,000. And again, it's not necessarily the company, but the people that brought you on, the people that brought them, your sponsors. This is how the money gets distributed through that model. Now I have to have, I don't want to get too involved in this, but the people above me they have a vested interest for me to become successful. So this is the first model where, my last real estate office, it was a great office, but I had no incentive to make anyone successful. Because if I made them successful, I'm essentially creating my competition. Under this model, I am completely incentivized to make them an absolute killer in real estate, because the more real estate they sell, now they're going to start attracting people to them and attracting people to them, and then I'm also able to help participate in that and also help train the people that are coming on under them. And then lastly, stock. So I bought stock. I mean, I'm not a big trader anymore. I mean, I kind of did it. I'm kind of a contrarian investor, so I think the stock market right now is just like real estate is pretty artificially pumped up. I was one of the people that bought Ford stock when it was like $1.50, right?
Oh, for $1.9.
$1.9, you did better than I did, yeah. But when the CEO of Boeing went to Ford, that's when that happened, and he turned around Boeing.
And you turned around Ford.
And he turned around Ford though too,
Ford
but
was the
before,
only company, Ford was the only company that didn't take any money.
and they didn't take any money from the
They
government.
no $45 billion. They said, I don't need it, because the CFO refinanced the whole deal.
Yep.
A year and a half, almost 20 months before
So I was
it imploded.
watching all of that, and the guy that turned around Boeing, he came into Ford, so I saw that, I saw exactly, and I'm like, this is a huge, I went to the auto show, Ford had a lot of great product, like this is a huge opportunity to buy Ford. Chipotle, when they had the IPO, that was a huge one. Anytime, if Portillo's ever had an IPO, I'd be all over it. Because Chipotle, when it first came out, was just like Portillo's is to this day. I mean, Chipotle's are still always busy. But that was like something, I think that was one of the records when it came out. But I saw man, they've got an awesome system, just like McDonald's.
McDonald's owns Chipotle.
I know, and that's why they had a good system.
Exactly.
And everybody else kind of followed it, Adobe and I forget the other ones. But when BP had the oil spill, everybody was running around BP's this big evil corporation. And yeah, is it bad that they put a bunch of oil into our ocean? Absolutely, that sucks. But I'm an investor, so everybody's talking about how bad this is. Their stock's going down. Their stock's going down. That's when I'm buying stock. BP stands for British Petroleum. It has nothing to do with the United States. I mean, it does, but they're a global company. The sun never sets on the BP empire. So
That was Getty. It was Getty actually started it. Paul Getty.
and so going into stock is a huge. So our stock at where I'm at now, eXp Realty, 2 years ago was less than I don't even know if I have that slide. So the stock about 2 years ago was like 50 cents. Our stock, so right now we're the fastest growing real estate company in the United States because of the amount of agents that are coming on. because we're revolutionizing the way that real estate is being done. Because instead of the money going to the brick and mortar, going to the traditional real estate model that's been out there forever, it's going to the people that brought me in, and now I have an opportunity to help mentor the people under me, because I want them to be successful.
Which company, Josh?
It's called eXp Realty.
Yes, oh, yeah, yes,
And we're still pretty infant. I mean, this was back, we were at a point where we were having about 100 agents. That was right before the spring market. It's slowed down now. But we have the stock program. So first transaction, I get 100 shares. When I cap, I get 375 shares. But people that were in this eXp a few years back, they're doing pretty well if they were producing real estate. So if I do the same volume as I did last year, that $16,000 that I pay to the company or my sponsors, the company will actually give that back to me in stock, so I'll actually be at 100%. Because what eXp is trying to do is to get the big producers to join eXp Realty. So they have this incentive for high producing agents, which is pretty cool because now I can be at 100% and participating in what other people are doing in their production. You guys have any questions about any of the streams of income?
What's your favorite?
Well, right now, so as of today, it'd be rentals. I look at how can I do something today that's going to pay me the rest of my life. So I love rentals. If I could have done one thing differently instead of flipping over 100 houses, if I could have just bought an extra 25 rentals, I would have rather done that.
How many rentals do you have in your portfolio?
Between me and my brother and our company, we're almost at 30. So,
I have a client that has over 600.
yeah, so I'm a small,
He's been doing it for 60-something years.
yeah, I'm a small fish, when it comes to my rentals, but that's where true wealth is built. Flipping houses is a job. Being a realtor is a job, okay? I'm not gonna lie, it's a grind, right? I did a lot of volume last, not a huge agent, but I've only been licensed for 3 years. Last year I did like 13 million in real estate. That's not like huge, but for being in it for 3 years, that's a lot of volume. But it was a grind. I worked my butt off to do that 13 million. But it's a job. So my big one is rentals. I'll always do private money lending through my IRA. My own liquid capital, I'm investing that into rental properties because I can leverage that. Construction is our new one we're heading into. I think there's a lot of money to be made doing kitchens and bathrooms and finished basements.
Don't come around me.
Better Schaumburg, huh?
I got enough competition.
Well, Schaumburg, yeah. Well, I think what we're going to be doing is focusing on Chicago mostly, simply because, like, you think of Downers Grove, Glen Ellen, Naperville. There's like, in each of those cities, you've got like 10 reputable builders in each of those cities. Chicago has very few reputable builders and contractors. It's actually kind of like the Wild West in Chicago. So there's more opportunity there, more population. So construction is our new one that we're starting to phase into. And being a real estate agent, I'm still going to make commissions because that's what pays the bill. But building my passive income of bringing people on, developing them to participate in profit share, rev share, and stock, again, it's work I'm doing once. It's going to pay me for the rest of my life. And what I want people to do is be successful in this business, help them build their pipeline, bring agents on. So if they leave the company, they no longer get to participate in that. The number one brokerage we're taking agents from, Keller Williams, the worst thing they did is they had this thing called vesting. Once you're 3 years vested into Keller Williams, you could leave Keller Williams and participate in profit share for the rest of your life. And so what a lot of Keller Williams agents have done is after their 3 years, they're now jumping over to eXp Realty. So our number one agent that we're attracting is Keller Williams because they understand the model. And then we have these extra 2 sources of income that they didn't have at Keller Williams. And if I leave eXp Realty, I lose all three, so now people become vested to stay with eXp Realty and not jump ship. Now, stock was cool about, like, the reason why I knew I was, had a good brokerage, this is a different broker, he's very successful, he does like around 100 million a year, around that number, through his team, not just him personally, but he's like, I was eating lunch with him, and he didn't even know I was at the eXp Realty, I was invited to a Keller Williams conference, and I was sitting with the table, I kind of was keeping quiet, I was at the eXp, I wasn't promoting it, because that person paid for me to be there, so I wasn't blabber mouth, and he's like, do you guys think I could buy eXp stock? Would that be a conflict of interest? And I'm like, I'm in the right place.